Hey there, vinyl community. I'm sitting here on the floor of my living room because I bought my dream power amplifier and it's too big to fit in my rack. This is the state of the stereo. So hello everyone. I know it's been a long time since I did anything related to like a setup video or a system video because first of all, for a long time a lot didn't change, and then I had two moves kind of immediately back to back. For those that don't know, I was in Arizona for a long time, then I was briefly in California, and now I live here in Colorado, and a lot's been going on. And also I've been doing a lot of reviewing for the Absolute Sound. And so there's been equipment cycling in and out of the system, and I haven't really had time to focus on my system and like what my system's doing. But in the back of my mind, I always kind of wanted to go for a no-holds-barred power amplifier. I loved my Hegel H390 integrated amplifier, but I had done so much to really refine the sources and the front end of my system with my turntable, my phono preamp, the Inuo streamer, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, my Denafrips DAC. It felt a little silly having all of that and then using an integrated amplifier, especially one that has a DAC in it and a streamer in it that I wasn't using. It felt a little silly to have an integrated amplifier. So I started to look at power amplifiers. And, you know, there's a few power amps that kind of stuck in my head that were ones I was thinking about having in my system. Probably the one that was the aspirational one for me would have been the Luxman M900U. That's a power amp that a lot of audio people have talked about. You can find videos of people talking about that amplifier on YouTube. And that was definitely one that I was really looking at. I've heard Luxman integrated amps many times. I've never heard their separates. And unfortunately, with a lot of this stuff, especially because I was looking at buying used, didn't really have an opportunity to listen to that one. And it was priced, even used, was the going rates for that amplifier were just a little bit beyond my budget. It wouldn't have been a comfortable reach for me. So that one kind of exited pretty quickly. Some other amplifiers I was looking at the Parasound JC5 stereo amplifier. That would have been definitely a more achievable amp because even new, I think I probably could have afforded that amplifier new. Of course, you know, for something like this, I think I wanted to look used. It's just going to be way more bang for buck. And another amplifier I was thinking about was the Pass Labs X250.8, which is Pass Labs' big Class AB 250 watt per channel power amplifier. Unfortunately, I just haven't had enough experience with Pass Labs. Now, for power amplifiers, here's the thing and the difference between buying a power amplifier used and buying a lot of other equipment used is it's very easy to find sellers that are willing to ship other equipment. Bookshelf speakers are usually not a problem to ship. Preamplifier is not a problem. Even turntables, as long as they have the original box, they usually ship no problem. It is hard to find people willing to ship power amplifiers, and most of them do not. Usually, most sellers online say they are unwilling to ship their heavy, over 100-pound power amplifiers. So if I was going to buy used, I had to look for something kind of in the vicinity or really factor in a lot of money for shipping. And another power amplifier that I've always kind of admired is the Hegel H30. And that is the amplifier you see right next to me here. Yeah, I bought my dream power amplifier. And when I was deciding between something like, realistically, it was really, I think, I had narrowed down the choices. I think the Luxman was beyond my budget. I think the Parasound had a lot of appeal, but a lot of people would comment on the high register of that amplifier not being quite to their liking. And I've owned a Parasound product in the past, and I found it to be a good, reliable, solid product. But again, it was the Hint 5, actually, the Parasound Hint 5. The sound signature wasn't really for me. But I thought, oh, maybe, you know, their top of the line would be better. But then someone actually, you know, it was Sean at Zero Fidelity, that told me, hey, listen, if you have a component from a company and you're really happy with that component, but you're wanting more, you're wanting to step up that experience, just go up the line of that company. And it was so obvious to me because I had such a fun time with my Hegel H390. I really loved that amplifier. I just wanted more. I wanted the be-all, end-all power amplifier, and I wanted to play with preamps and different types of preamps. And I wanted a power amplifier that would pair well with a wide variety of gear that I would be getting in for review. You know, there'd be no point in buying a power amp that was maybe, you know, one of those Class A power amps like the Pass XA25 that can power, that could power my Harbeth Monitor 30s, but when I get in some speakers like the ones you can kind of see in the camera here, the Rido XT2s, there was no way I was going to trust that amplifier to power these speakers, and I need an amplifier that is flexible like that to be able to review a wide range of speakers. So I thought, wow, maybe the Hegel H30 is the one for me. Now, I remember when I first got into Hegel, this was the amplifier that was their current top of the line back then. They made this amplifier from about, I want to say 2010 or 2011, is when they started producing this, and they wrapped up production on this in around 2022, I think, is when they finally discontinued this. So it had a 10-year run, and it was their top of the line. They've now replaced it with the Hegel H30A. This amplifier, when it was new, and the current H30A are power amps that are way outside of my budget. I think this retailed new for about $15,000, and the H30A I think is in the realm of something like 17, 18-ish. Don't quote me on that because I'd have to double check. But the great thing about audio is that everyone is constantly changing their equipment, and used examples of this were relatively, I wouldn't want to say common, but they would come up from time to time. And I was kind of keeping track on the prices, and usually around $6,000 to $7,000. Sometimes if it was pickup only, around like $5,500. This is an amplifier that new I could not afford, but at a used price I could probably afford, especially if I got rid of my H390. So that leads me to about a week and a half ago when I saw that one came up for sale from used for a dealer here in Colorado. And I went, okay, this is basically what I was waiting for. I was waiting for one to come up locally so I didn't have to pay to ship, didn't have to do all that stuff. So I scrambled and drove up to Erie and picked this up from the music room in Erie, Colorado. And I do want to give a shout out to the salesperson I worked with, Simon at the music room. Was super easy to work with, and just a super nice guy. I would say that if you're interested in some used audio gear, definitely give him a call because I had a good experience. And no, they're not giving me anything to say that, and they don't even know that I'm making this video. But I will say I had a pretty good experience picking this up from them. And so just like that, off went the 390 and in comes the H30 power amp. So when I'm talking about endgame power amplifier, what do I mean? So I mean, my H390 was not powerful. It was rated at 250 watts per channel, Class AB into 8 ohm. It had a fair amount of power and heft to it. This is actually not rated that much higher. This is, I think the stereo rating that Hegel gave this at the time it was new was 350 watts per channel into 8 ohm and 675 watts per channel into 4 ohm. So it does have a fair amount of current according to its rated power. But I was curious, I was so fascinated. What happens when you don't increase the power rating by that much? I mean, going from 250 to 350 watts on a Class AB amp doesn't feel like much. I mean, the Hegel H590, now the H600, has 300 watts per channel, and that's I think a 60, 70 pound amplifier. This is 125 pounds. That's why it wasn't getting shipped. I barely couldn't get this up the stairs. I had to basically slide it up the stairs because I was afraid I was going to fall and drop it. And of course, is I led with this video on, it is just a little bit too tall for the widest rung on my rack. It's about a ½ inch too tall to fit into the stereo rack. So for now, it is sitting on the floor besides the rack. Now, I'm under no illusions that 5 days, and I've spent about 5 days now with this amplifier. 5 days is not enough time to do any type of comprehensive review of a piece of equipment, and I'm not really going to try to do that. But all I can say is when I got this thing warmed up, the difference was not subtle. It's not that this is a powerful amplifier. Yes, it is a powerful amplifier, but the sound is so much more refined and in control than my 390 was. There is a brand similarity in terms of sound signature, but that's really where the similarities end. It is a completely different listening experience listening to this. And if you're wondering how am I, what is my preamp for this? Right now I'm using the H400, which I have in for review with the Absolute Sound, which should be posted sometime in the month of December. Right now I'm using the preamp out on that to drive this thing. But don't worry, there will be a dedicated preamp for this at some point in the near future. But I can talk a little bit about just some of the rediscovery of my music I've had listening to this amplifier in the last couple days. One of the first records I played is, I got home, I powered it up, and I wanted to play something like, okay, like what's a recent record that I played that sounded really, really, really good? Just on its own, sounded really great. And I turned to a record my friend Greg over at the YouTube channel Flowering Spikes recommended to me, which is a Japanese direct-to-disc recording by Isao Suzuki called String Band featuring Isao Suzuki. This is a Japanese direct-to-disc record with Isao Suzuki on the piccolo bass, but it has a lot of American jazz players on it. It has Hank Jones, Ron Carter, and Roy Hayes also playing on it, so it's kind of a cross-Pacific collaboration. This is a fantastic sounding record on any system, but being kind of fresh in my oral memory, I wanted to compare as like, okay, well, what can this amplifier do to this record that I haven't heard before? And first of all, holy crap, the bass. The bass on this amplifier is, it brought the Rido X2Ts, which is these speakers I have in for review here, and you can watch the review of these speakers over at the Absolute Sound YouTube channel. I will link it in the description below. These speakers are not light on bass. They do have a lot of bass frequency extension for their size, but just to help fill in the sound a little bit, just on and off, I've been playing them with my Rel T7X subwoofer, and with the Hegel H390. It was just a no-brainer. Yeah, play this record with the Rel on. I didn't really think much about it. I played this record with the Rel on. I had to turn it off. It was too much. Just with the speakers alone, the bass extension through this amplifier was deep, percussive. It was well-defined. It was that kind of quick, accurate, dynamic bass that you hear and that I've experienced before with really, really high-end setups displayed through my system, my own system. It's hard to describe the difference between bass extension and bass accuracy. It's not really something that's easy to put into words, because if it goes deep, it goes deep. But there's a difference between going deep and creating a shape of the instrument that is playing that deep sound. And this amplifier does that so well, to the point where for the vast majority of recordings, I felt like I don't need the sub. The bass performance of this amplifier is spectacular. When you talk about the mid-range, I always thought the H390 mid-range was neutral, it was open, it was dynamic, but it did feel decidedly solid state. This solid state amplifier has a mid-range liquidity that I often associate with really well done tube amplifiers. There's some type of openness, of spaciousness in the sound of like the human range voices. When I say that, I mean like violin, clarinet, even like guitar or speaking voice or sung voice. There is a space to the soundstage. There's a space to the air around the instruments. There is a space to the distance between each instrument that I wasn't used to hearing on these same speakers. This has a tube-like quality to certain parts of it. Now, in the bottom end, it is decidedly solid state, but there is a liquidity, a coherence, a flow in the sound of this that I haven't heard in a lot of the other solid state products I've tried. I'll give a little preview of a record that is going to come in very shortly in another living stereo video I'm doing, and that is LSC 1817, Jacques Offenbach's Gay Parisienne, with the Boston Pops and Arthur Fiedler. This is the Analog Productions reissue. This is a longtime audiophile warhorse, just one of the best sounding orchestral records ever recorded. Orchestras sound huge through the H30. They sound huge, they sound dynamic. Crescendos are bigger than ever before. Everything is more well placed in front of me and more powerful, more frightening. It's like increasing the size of my speakers without doing so. The dynamic ability of this amplifier is incredible, and I get why Hegel considered this to be their reference amplifier while it was still in production. It really has everything that Hegel is known for in sound quality. It just turns it all up. It demonstrates the best of their design philosophy with the sound engine with their Class AB technology. It does make me very curious to want to hear the Hegel H30A, which is the power amplifier that's replaced it. But here's the thing. I don't think I'm missing out that much, and I'll tell you why. Hegel did not replace the H30 power amplifier because of some deficiency in this amplifier. The reason Hegel had to replace the H30 with the H30A is that Hegel built the H30 around a very particular Toshiba MOSFET transistor that they really, really loved. That Toshiba transistor was discontinued in 2008. Hegel bought couple pallets of them, and they were using them to build this amplifier. Eventually, those transistors ran out. They no longer had enough to build new amplifiers, and that was what forced them to make the H30A. And now the H30A was designed using a new silicon transistor that they found, but it has a different sound, and so they had to completely redesign the amplifier around the sound of that transistor. So that was a redesign out of necessity, out of technological necessity, not one out of wanting something different in the sound. Now, do I think they probably did a good job with that amplifier? Yes, but do I feel like I'm missing out on something having this H30 here? No. And like I said, can't afford the H30A anyway. I'm not the kind of person, especially because I'm a reviewer, I'm not the kind of person that's going to say, this is the last amplifier I'm ever going to own. That may or may not be the case. But this is definitely, it represents the pinnacle of a sound that I was chasing back when I bought the original H390, and it's this incredible, controlled, deep, energetic, passionate sound that I feel like Hegel amplifiers have, especially in the bass region. This has some of the Hegel amplifiers in general, I feel like, have some of the most controlled, cleanest bass I've heard out of modern solid state equipment. And this is, to me, the sound I'm hearing on this represents the pinnacle of that idea. There may come a time when a piece I'm reviewing wows me more than this H30, because that happens when you listen to a lot of different pieces of equipment. But I feel like I've got a partner in crime for a very, very long time, because this was a big investment for me. And it's a heavy piece of equipment that is not going to leave this apartment easily. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me, Michael, are you going to get a P30 to pair with this H30 power amplifier? If you don't know, the P30 is the matching preamplifier that Hegel make for this. And that is a consideration. I'm not ready to rule that preamplifier out. However, I love the power and control that solid-state amplifiers have, but there's a lot of things I love about tubes, and I'd really love to try a tube preamplifier with this power amp. I use a tube phono preamplifier, this Alnic right here, for my vinyl playback, And it would be really cool to have a tube line stage preamplifier to pair with this solid state power amplifier. Now, I know there's some considerations that I have to undertake when thinking about pairing a tube pre with a solid state power amp, especially impedance matching. This power amplifier has an unbalanced input impedance of roughly 10,000 ohms and an balanced input impedance, so XLR input impedance of about 20,000 ohms. That keeps me as safe with a lot of modern tube preamplifiers, so I'm not super worried, but there is some care that has to be done in pairing. It seems like Hegel really prefer the XLR connection for this amplifier, so I am trying to look at preamplifiers that offer fully balanced connections. That does narrow down my search a lot, but I'm not ruling out single-ended connections as well. Some of the other preamplifiers I've been considering for this, the Icon Audio LA4 preamplifier is, I've been very impressed with Icon Audio stuff for a long time. I have the HP8 headphone amplifier. I love that headphone amplifier. So that's one that checks a lot of boxes for me. It has a mono switch, which is something I definitely would love to have in a preamplifier because I like sometimes listening to mono records, and my Alnic phono preamp does not have a mono selector on it. I have to use an outboard box. A mono switch would be great. I would love to have some type of fixed outputs on the preamplifier that can run to my Icon HP8 headphone amplifier because I've invested money in that amplifier. I like the way it sounds. I think it's a great product, so I'd like to be able to run a fixed signal out to that. That's a consideration, and the Icon LA4 has that. And obviously it has to have the right kind of output impedance. That particular preamplifier has about 100-150 ohm output impedance, so it's no problem pairing with the Hegel. The rule is the input impedance of your amplifier should be at least 10 times the output impedance of your preamp. So 150 ohm output impedance, I think about that on the Icon LA4. It means you want to have an input impedance on your amplifier of at least 1,500 ohms, which, 10,000 ohms is well beyond that. But still, I wouldn't want to have a power amplifier with that output impedance that was dipping below 5,000 ohms in all seriousness. But one of the issues the LA4 has is that it does not have balanced outputs. It does not have any balanced connections. It is a single-ended only preamplifier. So I have that to think about. And when I get closer, I will email with the people at Hegel and see what they think about this. Some other options that I've been kind of mulling over, the recently discontinued PS Audio BHK preamplifier. That is a tube hybrid preamplifier that's a fully balanced design, which is cool. That's a plus. Does not have a mono switch. That's a minus. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it has a way to do fixed line level outputs to my headphone amplifier, but it does have, from everything I can read, a very sophisticated onboard headphone amplifier. So that's one I'm considering, just because right now, with the fact that it's been recently discontinued, the prices are very, very good on that. That's one I'm considering. And it would be cool to have a piece of PS Audio gear besides the Sprout, just because I live in Colorado now, and they're like the home team here to some extent. So that would be cool. So that's one I'm considering. One that seems like it would work really well is the Zesto Audio Leto 1.5 preamplifier. Unfortunately, that one does not have fixed outs to my headphone amp, but it does have a built-in headphone amp. It does have a mono switch, and it is a fully balanced preamplifier, and it's a fully balanced all-tube preamplifier too. So I have some friends that have Zesto audio gear. They really like it. I've heard their phono preamps before, and I really liked those. I would love to hear one of their preamplifiers to see how it worked in my system, but that's one that's on my radar as well. And of course, I'm not discounting Hegel's own P30 or P30A preamplifier. It's just, I'm not sure if I really want to do a solid state preamp. I think going tubes is kind of what I'm looking for at this stage, especially when I have a power amplifier that has as much control already as this H30 does. I think experimenting with the tube pre would be really fun. Since I'm kind of making this an impromptu state of the stereo video, why don't I talk a little bit about other little changes I've made to my system since the last time I did one of these videos. Up top here, you're going to see another Hegel box. And I mentioned it before, but this is the H400. This is not an amplifier that I own. This is the new integrated amplifier from Hegel that replaces the amplifier that I owned, the 390. This is actually an amplifier that is in full review with the Absolute Sound, so this is not part of my system. It's just something I'm playing with as a preamp for now, and then I think literally after I record this video, I'm going to be unplugging that and listening mostly exclusively to this integrated amplifier so I can get this review done before Christmas. But I want to draw your attention to two new boxes on the rack. The first one here is a part of my Pure Fidelity Horizon turntable. This is the conductor from Pure Fidelity. This is their new speed controller and integrated power supply. This replaces the old Maestro, the little tiny power supply speed controller box I had before. This is essentially a add-on upgrade that transforms the Mark I variant of their Harmony and Horizon turntables to the Mark II variant. And I'll say right off the bat, this is a huge sonic upgrade to this table. If you want to know more about this, I will link the written review that I did on this upgrade over at the Tracking Angle. I will link that down in the description below, but check that out. They sent this over to me to try, and it is such a huge sonic improvement on the table. Never doubt the importance of good power quality and good speed stability in a turntable, because if you tweak with those things, you will realize just how different they can make something like a turntable sound. I love the conductor. It's a huge upgrade if you're a Pure Fidelity turntable owner, so I highly recommend it. And I already loved this table. It was a huge upgrade for me when I bought it, and the idea that I could squeeze even more performance out of this table was something I wasn't quite sure of until I heard it, and it makes total sense. So I think if you're a Pure Fidelity owner, definitely check this out. And if you've never heard of them, check out Pure Fidelity, because they're a really cool turntable manufacturer. They're not paying me to say that. I just really like their turntables. The power supply for my turntable is also this guy right here. This is the other major addition to my system in 2024. This is the Inuos Zenith, or as Americans we say Zenith, Zenith Mark III streamer and music server, essentially. So earlier this summer for the Absolute Sound, I reviewed the Inuos Zen Mini Mark III solid state version, and that was a remarkable little, it was a streamer, CD ripper, music server, basically all in one box. It came with its own proprietary software, the Inuos Sense software. And I did a review on that. I really liked it, and I talked to Inuos. I said, I think I might want to buy this. This is really cool, and it's kind of everything I've been looking for in a digital streaming and CD cataloging front end. I really like the idea of the high quality CD ripper in these that automatically catalogs your music, because I have a fairly extensive CD collection, and it's nice to just be able to play it all off a hard drive with the nice software and everything. And they said, yeah, we can sell you that demo unit, but we also have a kind of older review sample of a Zenith Mark III. That's 2 rungs up from the Zen Mini. We can offer that to you at a really good price if you want that. And I went, you know what? Yeah, sure. Let me try that. And it's remarkable. It's amazing sounding. This is kind of the perfect reviewer's streamer. I have a catalog of my CDs, my digital music, my hard drive DSD files now are all on the built-in solid state drive on this unit. I also have my Qobuz subscription linked into the Inuos Sense software, so when I'm browsing Inuos Sense and I browse through an artist, I can see, oh, I have all the albums from them that I've ripped or that are on the hard drive, and then I have also all the albums that are available to me via Qobuz through this streamer. So, yeah, Inuos are all over the place. They're kind of like a household name at this point. I don't really need to extend to anyone the virtues of Inuos. I feel like they have a pretty good market presence. But this was the perfect solution for me in my system. Before I moved, I reviewed the Metronome Aqua 2 CD player, DAC, and streamer, and SA CD player, actually. And that was a phenomenal sounding piece of digital kit, and if I had 20 grand to spare, I would buy that. But I will say something in the Inuos' favor. that streamer, DAC, whatever, all-in-one digital box had incredible liquid tube-like high-end sound quality. This sounds really good, don't get me wrong. I'm not like lacking listening to the Inuos. But one thing that piece didn't have was a all-encompassing, easy-to-use software suite attached to it. You had to use, if you wanted to stream through that, it was basically the same as streaming to the Hegel. We're using UPnP software. It's not, you don't even get something like BlueOS. So using that piece for streaming was nowhere near as high quality feeling as this does when you're streaming. The Inuo Sense software really feels like a true Roon competitor, and I will also link the review I did on the Inuo Zen, which covers the Inuo Sense software, in my description box below. But yeah, this is going to be a fantastic digital front end for reviewing equipment throughout the years, I think. It was kind of like the final piece in the puzzle for my front end. Very happy with my cartridge, very happy with my turntable, very happy with my phono preamp. I love my Denafrips DAC. And so this was kind of like the final missing piece in the front end of my system, and that's filled now, and now I get to play with things like speakers and preamplifiers and things like that. So that's where I'm at for 2024. That is all the changes to my stereo that have happened in the last, I guess, 2 years since I've made a video about this topic. But I want to hear from you. What preamplifiers do you think I should be considering to pair with my new Hegel H30 amplifier? Should I go tube? Should I go back to solid state? Leave your comments down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. And please, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscription icon. It makes sure that when I do videos, they actually show up in your YouTube feed. So thank you all for watching. I'll be back soon, hopefully in a couple days, with a follow-up to my last living stereo video. This is the holidays, and I'm a musician, so things get a little busy. Bear with me. Everything should go back to normal, I think, probably around New Year's. But I hope you all have a really great holiday season, and I will see you next time. Cheers.